If you're an advanced player, I know what you're doing wrong, but you got to hear me out on this. And I want you to think back on the first few years that you played this game and what your thoughts were in those first couple of years. So when you first started, you missed every ball, you were miscuing, you couldn't get shape, you were just playing bad. And over the years, you've learned how to sort of get position and sort of consistently make balls, but you just can't get over that hump. Well, during those first few years, you convinced yourself that pool is this very difficult thing that you have to work very, very hard to get better at, and you just need more practice, and you need to do drills, and you need. And what happened was you became convinced of that, and you're still thinking that pool is this very, very difficult thing that takes precision, that you have to master, and you have to study it, and you have to become like an Asian going to school to discipline yourself, and all this crap. So while you have addressed and fixed all the bad physical habits of your game, and you took a crooked stroke and you made it straight, and you took a wobbly stance and you made it firm, and you did everything right physically, but you kept those mental habits and those mental thoughts, and you didn't address it like your physical game and changed those thoughts. And this is what you have to do. You, my loyal friend, are doing things the hard way. So let's look at a typical shot of a good player that's not great, and let's figure out what made him decide to get to that place on that ball instead of doing it another way. And with this example, I'm pretty sure that if you dig deep, you'll be able to see things in your own game and why you yourself are holding your own game back. Not in your physical game, but in your mental game. And before I shoot this two-ball shot, I want you to pause it right here, and then we're going to go to a graphic and show you the difference between you and some of the best players in the world. So naturally, before shooting this two, we look at the rest of the table, and we can see this is a serious mess, and this is a serious mess. So we're going back from 5 to 4 to 3 and to 2, and we're taking a look at those. And the issue with this 4 and this 5 is the position you need on the 4 to stay on the 5 and roll up for a shot on that 6, because that 8 ball is blocking the pocket for the 6. So stay with me. We still have a pocket for that 6 ball, and it's down there, but we have to get pretty good on that 6 ball. We have to get behind it because we're limited in pockets. So the best thing to do is to get behind this 5 ball and just roll up on that 6 for a shot in that corner, right? Y'all agree with that? Stay with me. So the issue again goes back to this 4 and 5. Where do we need to be on that 4 to get straight in on that 5 for a shot on that 6 ball in the corner up there? This is exactly where players go wrong every day, all day, every game. Let's take a better look at this 4 and this 5 ball. And the problem again goes back to this 8 and this 6, and we seriously want to avoid it, but it looks like there's no way to avoid it, because the best way to get straight on that 5 is to hug this rail and get close to this rail and stun it from the 4 to the 5. And that doesn't end the problems. That 6 and 8, if you get by that and do hug that rail, you still got to get by that 5 ball, and you are dealing with microscopic distance here, and you're just demanding perfection out of yourself because you're convinced that everything is difficult about this game, so you're doing things the difficult way, and you're making nothing but a mess. Chances are very good that you're going to bounce off that rail a little too hard and get behind that 5, and you're going to have to kick to a safety. And so a player will justify their position of doing that by saying, well, we don't want to get to center table, because if we go center table, we're going to have to bounce off this rail, back to this rail and back behind the 5, and you could take a good, you have a good chance of scratching right there. Or even if you don't scratch, you have to be perfect on this 5 to get back on this 6. Let's look at another example of why players refuse to get to the center of the table on this shot to have this horrible angle on this 4 ball, because they're going to lose control of the 4 and they're going to have to do too much with the cue ball. So if they put it a lot of top right or top left on this ball and go 2 rails back behind the 5 ball, they're dealing with this mess right here, and there's no guarantee that they're going to get straight in on the 5 so they can draw back for an easy shot on the 6. And let's look at another example of having this angle on the 4 ball and trying to get underneath the 5 ball so you can roll up on the 6 ball right there. There's no guarantee of getting perfect on that ball either, and chances actually are very good that you're not going to get straight in. You're going to be at an angle and you're going to have a difficult time getting on the 6. These are all legitimate reasons, and I'm telling you right now, you're thinking all wrong. And in fact, you're thinking like you've been playing for 2 years, no matter how many years you've been playing, and that's because you never got rid of all those shitty mental thoughts that you had when you first started playing this game. Now is the time to get rid of them and to realize that this game is not anywhere near as difficult as your brain thinks it is. So let's go back to the pool table, but instead of starting at the 2, let's go ahead and start at the beginning and from the 1, the 2, and the 3. And what I do on the 3 is probably going to confuse you. And the position I got from the 2 to the 3 is probably going to confuse you, because I'm doing exactly what I told you not to do. But that's just the way it seems, because you don't know. The rest of the story. Take note where I point to at the table right here. As you can see, it's not exactly where I was pointing to at the table, and I came up a little bit short because I'm not used to the speed of this table, but besides the point, it's the same angle, and it's center table, and we still have that steep angle on the 4 ball. So why am I doing this when I told you not to do it? But actually, I did not tell you not to do this. I told you don't go behind the 6 and the 8 to try to hug that rail and get on the 4, because it's leaving you absolutely no room, and you're just asking for trouble. You're making things too hard. So let's go back to a graph and see how to play this shot. When you shoot this cue ball to the 4 ball, you're going to have to hit it hard enough for the cue ball to roll and hit the 4 ball hard enough to make the 4 ball in this pocket. And if you just shoot it with center ball, you're going to wind up with the cue ball somewhere around that corner pocket over there, and you'll be very lucky if you don't scratch. Either way you look at it, you're going to have a dreadful shot on the 5, and it's not the place to be. So players see all that, and the first thing they think is we have to go at least 2 rails back on this 5 ball. And what you're doing is thinking wrong, and you're not understanding another one of your options here, and I'm going to explain it to you. Let's consider this. What if we could put this cue ball a whole lot closer to this 4 ball, but at the same angle? If you could put the cue ball right here and just shoot it from right here magically for whatever reason, could you hold that cue ball to the rail and get straight in on the 5 ball? Well, the answer is yeah, you could, but it's not there, it's here. And actually, the answer to the other question is yes, you can put the cue ball right there. You just can't do it physically and in a way that breaks the rules of the game and is a foul. You can't pick it up with your hand and place it there. But you can shoot a shot to where the cue ball does not start rolling forward until right here. Snooker players call this shot the stun run through shot. Yeah, stun run through. American pros tend to call it the drag shot. And great players utilize this shot in instances like this every single day. They're doing it all the time. You're just not seeing it on your video screen because the cameras aren't catching it. So if you shot a draw shot as hard as you could, as hard as anybody could, all the way down like a 100-yard football field, and it was spinning backwards halfway down the field, and then it got to the 50-yard line, and it starts kind of skidding along the surface. It's not rolling forward or backward for, I don't know, a couple of feet in a 100-yard field. And then eventually it's going to start rolling forward to as far as it can go before it runs out of steam and just stops somewhere along the 10-yard line. Well, you're taking that concept and all three of those things and you're reducing it in a 4-foot shot. So the cue ball is spinning backward, it's skidding along the surface, and it's rolling forward softly to the object ball so it doesn't bounce too hard off the rail. And you make the object ball and you get position on the following ball. So basically from here to here it's rolling backward. From here to here it's just skidding a little bit, and then from here to here it is softly rolling forward to make the 4 ball in the corner. So basically what you're doing is greatly slowing down the inertia of the ball as if you just shot it about a foot away, because that's exactly where it started rolling forward. And when it stopped rolling backward and started skidding, it was kind of like putting the brakes on, but not completely and slamming the brakes, just greatly slowing down the cue ball at a very slow speed, but just enough speed. It's a timing shot, just enough speed to hit the 4 ball hard enough to make it in the corner. It's just that it's so slowed down that it can't bounce hard against that rail and you lose control of it. You're barely tapping around and just bouncing out for good position on the 5 ball. It takes a good straight stroke to do it consistently. If you're an advanced player, you have a consistent stroke. You just haven't dialed this shot in, and it is so incredibly handy. It might be the most vital shot in high-level pool. This shot will make you more money and win more tournaments than any other shot in existence. And people don't know about it because you can't see it on video, and the pros aren't going to share these secrets with you. Although, I don't think I would call it a secret. A lot of people know about it, they just don't know how to execute it because they don't practice it. So you're going to have to practice this shot to get good at it. So let's go to the actual shot on video, and I'll show myself doing it, and then we're going to come back to another graphic that a friend of mine made and will greatly illustrate this shot in a little bit more detail so you fully understand what's going on here. So as you can see, if you have this shot in your arsenal, there's absolutely no reason to go 2 rails or 3 rails or slam the cue ball or cut the cue ball loose in an effort to get good position on the 5 to get back on that 6 ball. So it needs to be said that, well, it looks like I'm just hitting this cue ball lightly and just rolling up on it from where the cue ball is to the 4 ball. That's not at all what I'm doing here. If you do that, if you try to roll this cue ball forward from where the cue ball is to the 4 ball, you're going to have way too much inertia on the cue ball, and you're going to have to hit that 4 ball hard enough to make it in the pocket, and I guarantee you that cue ball is going to bounce off the rail and get in bad position. So a big shout out to graphic maker Patrick Johnson, and thank you for letting me use this graphic. I do have permission to use this graphic, YouTube or Google, whoever wants to argue with me about it. And we can see if we take a good look at it. Let's say this here was the object ball. So naturally, because the cue ball was spinning backwards, when it hits the object ball, the cue ball is going to come back to you if it's a straight in shot, or if you're at an angle, it's going to give that draw effect and arch the cue ball. Right here in the center, you can see the cue ball is skidding. It's not rolling forward or backward. And if we have a straight in shot and this was the object ball, the cue ball would simply stop in its tracks right there at that object ball. And if we go further and sort of hit the object ball where this ball is starting to roll forward, we get the drag shot. And the issue with doing this in shots like I'm taking here is this backward spin greatly slows down the cue ball. And when it's not rolling forward until here, it's already slowed down a whole lot. So you're not just kind of dragging the cue ball, you're slowing down the cue ball. Watch my stick from the start. I'll pause it right where it should be. Let's go back to it. What I'm doing right here is noticing that 6 ball and realizing we have a big problem on that 6 ball because we only have one corner to shoot it in, and that's that one right there. Now, technically, you could get on the other side of the 6 ball and shoot it down the table, but that's way too much work. So the problem with that is you got to do too much to get back on that 6 ball on that side of the 6 ball, and you're just cutting the cue ball loose again. And again, you want to avoid that. So while it looks I'm just banging balls around the table, there's actually a whole lot going on upstairs. It's just that I've learned to do it very quickly. Key in on that shot, guys. I'm telling you, you use it all the time, and it'll get you out of a lot of situations. And not just for hugging the rail and staying on the rail at odd angles. It's used in a lot of circumstances. And players, it's amazing how many players don't know this. You have to practice it. As you can see, I came up a little bit short on the 6 ball and didn't get exactly where I was trying to get. And a lot of players will panic right here because they're not straight in on the 6 ball. And they'll think again that they'll have to throw the cue ball away and do something crazy to get straight in or close to straight in on the 7 ball in order to run the rest of this rack. So what they'll do is cut the cue ball loose here and try to draw the hell out of it or follow the hell out of it. And they'll slam into the 8 ball and they'll just kind of hope they get where they need to be on the 7 ball. And it's a bad idea. This 7 ball is completely cuttable from almost anywhere on the table. And we don't have to get straight in on the 8. In fact, we don't want to get straight in on the 8. We need an angle on the 8. So I'm going to resume and then show you how we play the 8. So on this shot, we're going to use the whole table and go all the way down table and all the way back up table. And we're not going to put much of anything on it because we're going to use the right side, that side of the table, to get the right angle on the 8 ball. You just don't want to hit this too hard. It's a very thin cut. It's still an easy cut, and you're probably worried about a scratch in that corner up there when here's another shot you should practice because you're nowhere really near the scratch. You have a good 5 or 6 inches from that pocket to bounce off of it and come up anywhere on that side of the table. And now we're just kind of putting a little bit of left hand, a little bit of bottom, and drawing this ball off the rail. And the danger in this shot is you could scratch on it. And now you can see we have a straight in shot on the 9 ball and all is gravy from here. So how about we loop this back and watch the whole video with some music, and I'll stop yakking and everything will be groovy. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really do appreciate every single one of you. I think if you take this to heart, your game will improve a lot. So don't forget me. Peace.